Welcome to section 6.1, the Pythagorean Theorem. As you may or may not remember, the Pythagorean Theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The Pythagorean Theorem will help us determine the lengths of missing sides on a right triangle. So it's really important to note that the Pythagorean Theorem only works on a right triangle. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask that you open up your textbook to page 314 and write the definitions and or draw pictures of the following vocabulary: right triangle, right angle, leg, and hypotenuse. Then I want you to complete questions 1 and 2 on page 314. While you're doing this, please press pause on the video. On page 314, you should have differentiated the difference between the leg of a triangle and the hypotenuse of a right triangle. It's really important to know that when you're looking at a right triangle, the hypotenuse will be on the side opposite the right angle. So here's my right angle. The hypotenuse is going to be this side. The other two sides are considered my legs. Doesn't matter which leg is labeled A and which leg is labeled B. But this side of the triangle has to be labeled C because it's the hypotenuse. Another interesting fact you should have gotten from page 314 is that the hypotenuse is the longest side of a right triangle. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a moment to use the Pythagorean theorem to calculate the length of a missing side of a right triangle. And again, it's important to note that the Pythagorean theorem will only work if we're looking at a right triangle. Anytime we're using a formula, the first thing you need to do is jot down the formula. So we're using the Pythagorean theorem, so the formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now, in this triangle, my sides are labeled. So this side is labeled A, this side is labeled B, and then the side that I'm not clear on the length of is side C. Again, it's important to know that the hypotenuse is the side opposite the right angle. All right, so we're going to go ahead and fill in. A is 5, so I'm going to write 5 squared, plus B is 12, so I'm going to put 12 squared, equals C squared. Now, 5 squared is 5 times 5, which is 25. And 12 squared is 12 times 12, which is 144. And that's going to equal C squared. So I'm going to go ahead and using my equation solving skills, I'm going to solve for C squared. So to do that, I need to add 25 plus 144. So that's going to give me 169 equals C squared. Now, anytime I have a formula or an equation, that I'm solving that has a squared term, to undo the squared term, I have to take the square root of this number. So what I want to calculate is what number times itself is going to give me 169. So in your calculator, you're going to look for a button that looks like this. It's called your square root button. So right now, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. When I do that, when I take the square root of c squared, my answer is c, and the square root of 169 is 13. Now, if you notice, I wasn't given any measurements on A or B. So when that happens, I still need to label my answer. So I'm going to put 13U for units. If you want to write the word unit out, you can feel free to do that. I want to make a special point here to point out that all of this work is expected to be shown on your homework and in your notes. Here's our next example. How high up a building will a 12-foot ladder reach if the base of the ladder is 7 feet from the building? So if you look over here at this diagram, you can see I've got the label laddered. And what I need to figure out is which side of the triangle is going to give me the distance between the ladder and the base of the building. So hopefully you can tell that the distance here is going to be the distance between the base of the ladder and the building. So that is 7 feet. And it told me earlier in my story problem that the ladder is 12 feet long. So I'm going to go ahead and label that. Now, if you can't already see the right triangle, here is my right angle, And what I'm trying to calculate is this distance right here. How high up will this ladder reach if it's a 12-foot ladder and the base is 7 feet from the building? So I'm going to go ahead and label that X. All right, so hopefully you see my right triangle that just happened here. And in order to calculate the length of that side, I'm going to need the Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to write a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now I need to determine which side is A, which side is B, and which side is C. I always start with finding my C. So I always look for my right angle, and the side opposite the right angle is side C, my hypotenuse. So I'm going to go ahead and label that side C, and I'm going to put 12 here because 12 is C. Then the other two sides don't really matter. So I've got side A and side B, and I'm going to fill them in that order. So I'm going to put 7 squared for A and x squared for B. Now you can see here in this problem, I have A and I have C. I'm trying to calculate side B. So this problem is going to be an extra step or two that I didn't have to do in the last example. So I'm going to go ahead and square. 7 squared is 49 plus x squared equals 12 squared. I'm sorry, 12 squared, which is 144. Okay, then what I need to do is I need to get x squared by itself. So I want to get this alone. So in order to do that, I need to subtract 49 from both sides. And when I do that, so what I'm going to get here is x squared equals 95. So the same thing that happened in the last problem. In order to calculate for x, I'm going to have to take the square root of both sides. And I'm going to get x equals a long number, so it's a long decimal. I'm going to round it to 9.75, and I believe my label was feet. So I'm going to label it as 9.75 feet. So that tells me is if I had a 12-foot ladder and I positioned the base of the ladder 7 feet from a building, I could reach at most 9.75 feet up the side of the building. Here are 2 questions that I'd like you to try on your own. Don't do these with a partner. Don't do these with your group. Please complete these 2 problems on your own. So you're going to want to press pause on the video. Make sure you have all the information that you need so you can correctly and accurately calculate the length of the unknown side. When you're finished, show your teacher. If your answers are correct, you will earn your homework.